50 best. What a what an experience those are. It's certainly meant a great deal to us here at the French Laundry, to me personally, to be considered as one of the 50 best restaurants in the world. Certainly it's an extreme idea to actually try to identify 50 of the best restaurants in the world. Something that certainly is a daunting task for the magazine, and certainly for the staff of the magazine, trying to bring together who those 50 best are, and to be chosen as one of them is a great honor. It's also a great joy to be able to go to London every year and share those moments with colleagues and friends. It's one of the only times. It's probably the only time in the year that so many of us from so many different parts of the world come together, and it certainly is a great party. The real underlying experience for me in developing this style and evolving in this style is really the law of diminishing return. The more you have of something, the less you like it. And that comes from my adolescent years in South Florida and having a beer on the beach. That first cold beer was always so refreshing, so delicious, and of course the second was less so, and the third was even less so. So I kind of started to formulate this idea of having smaller amounts of whatever I was consuming, because I enjoyed it much more. The top of my list would have to be Heston at the Fat Duck, and I ate there relatively recently. It was probably about a year and a half ago, and I'd eaten there about 7 years ago, and the refinement of the food, of his dishes, is so apparent and so wonderful. The execution is extraordinary. And some of the dishes you see from the previous menu, but they're recast in a more refined way. I can't get that word out of my mind when I think about what Heston has done with that restaurant. It's playful. We found ourselves laughing in many occasions. One of our dining colleagues was actually weeping at one moment as a memory of her experience as a child overcame her while she was eating his surf and sea dish. And then Heston, of course, has over the years become a great friend, and with that you have a relationship with somebody, and to be able to eat someone's food that you actually know as a friend is even more meaningful. And so that certainly it comes to the top of my mind. Of course, Ferran Adrian at El Bulli has done extraordinary things for our industry, who kind of recast what food is all about, and looking at it in a totally different way. And it's magnificent. It's genius. So certainly, that comes to the top of my mind. One of my favorite restaurants in London is St. John's, and I think Fergus there has done extraordinary and very, very simple food, but very honest food, and food that you want to go back to over and over and over and over again. It's just fabulous. And then of course, when I think about the place of Per Se and the French Laundry. And certainly it's hard for me to speak about them because I'm intimately involved with them. But certainly being able to see those two names on that list, every year for the past 7 years has been a true honor for me. And the staff continues to find encouragement and reinforcement in what they're doing, and I think that's really, really important. And that's one of I think one of the primary assets of having an award is that it encourages you and reinforces what you're doing, so that you continue to work harder and work better. The ones in America, I think are evident. And some of them are colleagues of mine, people like Jean-Georges Van der Richten, as Jean-Georges, Daniel Boulud, who's finally been recognized to have 3 stars by Michelin. Is certainly one of those restaurants. Daniel Hume at 11 Madison Park. Again, all those 3 restaurants being in New York. I think Qua in San Francisco is up and coming, and should be one that's recognized. I'm remiss by not talking about Australia and Sydney, because it's one of the cities that I truly love and one of the countries that I've always been fascinated with. And of course, Neil Perry's down there, tremendous chef, a chef who's really done extraordinary things for Australia and recognition of their cuisine. Of course, Tatsuyu, at the top of that list, and then a newcomer, Peter Gilmore, who I think is just a tremendous young chef with a real vision for his food and a true determination to continue to excel. Restaurants opening for me are I don't want to say difficult, but they're certainly a daunting task. They take us several years to do, much planning, the staffing of them, the organization, the design, construction, opening, and then of course certainly that first year and a half of really kind of stabilizing the restaurant after it's open. But I'm sure that in the future there will be another restaurant. I don't think I'll do another fine dining restaurant as French Ondier per se, but Bouchon is a wonderful restaurant, and I think Bouchon has an opportunity to open in possibly another city in America. Cooking to me is about product and execution, and I've spent decades establishing relationships with our suppliers, with our purveyors, with our farmers, to get the best products that I possibly can. Spent decades training and mentoring staff, and certainly we have a great alumni group that's out there working outside of our restaurants. We have a great teams in our restaurants, and we look at the teams generationally, so we can start to identify those next generations of young chefs, of young leaders, and try to mentor and train them. So I'm sure that there could be a day when there's an opportunity to do a restaurant outside of the country. It'd probably take us a lot more time to organize and to open, primarily because of the two things I spoke about: product, resourcing product in a country where I'm not really familiar with the suppliers, and then of course staffing. We're in a country where we don't have the resources that we have in America.